The great chamber of the Galactic Council loomed like a cathedral of stars, an immense space station orbiting the ancient planet of Azura Prime, bathed in the soft blue light of its dying sun. Hundreds of species, from the towering crystalline Xylan to the multi-limbed Vornax, filled the hall with a low murmur, their voices blending into a strange harmony of alien tongues. For centuries, this council had ruled the known galaxy with wisdom, diplomacy, and the unshakable belief in cosmic order. It was a place where every member species played its part, a cosmic orchestra finely tuned to avoid chaos. Then came humanity. No one had expected Earth's primitive, barely space-faring species to be granted a seat in the council chambers, let alone invited. The delegation arrived on a small, rusty-looking vessel, hardly befitting the grandeur of galactic politics. The humans themselves, tall, unpredictable, and disturbingly curious, walked into the hall with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Ambassador Raltan of the Xylan was the first to speak. His voice was like the cracking of ice. "We have studied humanity extensively. They are unusual. Their biology is fragile compared to other species, and their technology, while developing rapidly, remains crude." He looked toward the human ambassador, a woman named Commander Jane Halvorson. Her steady gaze met his without a hint of fear. "Fragile." Jane's voice was calm but firm. "We've survived wars, plagues, and extinction events that would have wiped out entire species. We may be new to the galactic stage, but don't mistake that for weakness." The council murmured, some impressed, others skeptical. At that moment, the holographic centerpiece of the chamber flickered to life, projecting a galaxy map with blinking red dots, threats, anomalies, and zones of conflict. The council's main concern was always order, peace, and the delicate balance of power. The elder Orin, a wizened figure of the Vornax species, addressed the assembly. "Humanity has been granted observer status, for now, but their unpredictability worries many. Our intelligence reports indicate a rapid escalation in their technological advancement, particularly in weaponry and artificial intelligence." Jane smiled slightly. "Technological growth is the hallmark of progress. We believe in adaptation, evolution, and survival by whatever means necessary. We don't hide behind ancient treaties that bind us. We forge our own path." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. To some, humanity's words sounded like a challenge, an implicit threat. To others, they sparked a flicker of curiosity. Suddenly, the council chamber lights dimmed. The hologram shifted, displaying an unknown signal from the outskirts of human-controlled space. The screen showed a human starship, the Valiant Dawn, engaged in a battle against an aggressive alien fleet far larger and better armed. A tense silence fell over the room. Raltan's voice broke the quiet. "This is the Valiant Dawn, a human warship fighting a battle, without council sanction or support. They've crossed several jurisdictional boundaries to engage in this conflict." Jane's face hardened. "That battle is proof of what humanity is capable of. We don't wait for permission when our survival is at stake." Suddenly, the hologram flickered again. This time, the view zoomed in on the Valiant Dawn, showing an unthinkable sight. Its weapon systems deploying an unknown energy pulse that instantly disintegrated an entire alien fleet's flagship, vaporizing it in seconds. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The technology was unlike anything the council had seen. "The weapon, what is that?" Orin asked, voice trembling. Jane looked around the room. "It's a prototype based on reverse-engineered alien tech combined with human innovation. We call it the Singularity Lance. It can end wars in moments. That's why we develop and deploy it." One of the council members, a diplomat from the telepathic Cythery, stepped forward, eyes glowing faintly. "Your methods are reckless. Unregulated weaponry could destabilize the entire galaxy. Humanity could start a war that none of US can contain." Jane met the Cythery's gaze unflinchingly. "If war comes, it's because you refuse to act. We don't negotiate peace with threats. We create it through strength." The room was filled with tension, so thick it could be cut with a knife. The Galactic Council, the embodiment of civilization and order, was facing a species that didn't fit their rules, a wild card. Behind the scenes, unknown to the council members, a shadow moved. A silent observer, neither human nor alien, watched the proceedings through hidden cameras. This being smiled faintly, knowing the chaos humanity would bring was only just beginning. As the council debated, the human delegation prepared to make its final move, a proposal that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. Jane stepped forward and said, "We offer our knowledge and strength. Join us or be left behind, because humanity isn't waiting for anyone's approval." A murmur spread through the chamber. The council had met humanity, and already some wondered if they had made a grave mistake. The chamber's tension was palpable. Every species held its breath after Ambassador Jane Halvorson's bold declaration. The Galactic Council was accustomed to diplomacy, negotiation, and subtlety, not raw challenges wrapped in a promise of overwhelming power. The murmurs grew louder. Some delegates exchanged worried glances. Others nodded in cautious approval. Then Elder Orin raised his hand, calling for order. "Ambassador Halvorson, your offer is unprecedented," Orin said slowly, voice heavy with age and caution. "Explain. What exactly does joining you mean? And what price will humanity demand in return?" Jane's eyes flashed with determination. "We don't ask for territories or tributes. We want integration into the Council's framework, with equal representation, equal voice. We will share our technology, our knowledge, but we expect full participation. No hidden agendas. We want to reshape the galaxy's future." A Sithari diplomat's eyes glowed brighter, voice cold. "You come into our realm, armed with weapons we barely understand, and demand equal footing? Your history is brief, your species volatile. What guarantees do we have you won't destabilize us all?" Jane smiled, a calm but deadly smile. "Guarantees? The galaxy has none. You've relied on balance and order for centuries. But what if that order no longer serves the survival of life? We're here to evolve that balance. Join us, or watch as we change the rules ourselves." Suddenly, the chamber's atmosphere shifted. A ripple of unease swept through the council. No one had spoken like this before, no one had dared. From the back of the hall, a booming voice interrupted. It was Councillor Vorik, leader of the Xylan delegation, his crystalline frame shimmering with anger. "This is madness. Humanity is a powder keg, unpredictable, dangerous, and reckless. We must expel them immediately, before they bring ruin to us all." Jane's expression hardened. "Try, and you'll find out why you regret it." Before more words could be exchanged, the chamber's security systems detected an anomaly. Alarms blared throughout Azure Prime Station. "Security breach," a voice announced. "Unauthorized ships entering Council space at high velocity." Jane's eyes narrowed. It's the Valiant Dawn again. On the holographic display, multiple ships were pouring in from the human border. Warships unlike any the Council had catalogued, sleek and fast, bristling with weapons. The Council erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted orders, scrambling to understand what was happening. Jane's voice cut through the noise. "This is not an invasion. These are escort ships to protect our delegation. There are threats on the border we will no longer ignore." Elder Orin's voice was grim. "You bring war to our doorstep, Ambassador. This council will not tolerate this defiance." Jane took a deep breath. "Then you leave me no choice." Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the station. The chamber trembled as energy pulses ripped through the outer hull. The holographic projection flickered violently. Outside in space, a new fleet appeared, dark, imposing, and alien beyond description. Unknown ships, unregistered, hostile. The Council's defenses scrambled, but struggled against this sudden assault. Jane stood tall. "This is why humanity cannot wait for your approval. The galaxy is changing. Our enemies grow stronger. We will protect ourselves, our allies, and this council, whether you like it or not." The chamber's doors sealed tight. The Galactic Council had just met humanity, and the first war to define their uneasy alliance was already beginning. The great chamber shook violently as alarms screamed through the halls of Azure Prime Station. Outside, the dark alien fleet had already breached the outer defense perimeter, their ships moving with unnerving precision and overwhelming firepower. The council members scrambled to activate their weapon systems, but the invaders' technology was unlike anything recorded. Shields flickered and failed under the alien assault. Ambassador Jane Halvorson stood steady, eyes locked on the holographic display, calculating, strategizing. Beside her, her security detail prepared for a possible evacuation. But Jane was not one to flee. "This is the Shadow Fleet," she said quietly to those near her. "They've haunted the edges of human space for decades. Raiders, mercenaries, and worse. They're testing the council now, seeing who will stand and who will fall." The council elder, Oren, looked shocked. "We have intelligence on these pirates? Why were we not warned?" Jane's lips tightened. "Because the council's bureaucratic system moves too slowly. When it comes to survival, speed is everything." The council's military commander, a towering figure from the Vornax, barked orders to coordinate a counterattack. But it was clear, the alien raiders had anticipated every move, striking faster and harder. On the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, Captain Marcus Lee monitored the battle. "Commander Halvorson, their flagship is heading straight for the council station's main reactor. If they breach it, this place will go up like a supernova." Jane's jaw clenched. "Not on my watch." She activated the Singularity Lance's protocols remotely, preparing to unleash its devastating power on the flagship. Back in the chamber, tension grew. The alien fleet's arrival was no accident, it was a message. And the council was vulnerable. Suddenly, the alien flagship emitted a pulse that disabled the station's shields entirely. The station groaned under enemy fire. Explosions rocked the structure, debris hurtling through the corridors. Jane grabbed a nearby communicator. "All units, focus fire on their flagship. I'm activating the lance." The Singularity Lance's energy began to build, a bright blue beam charging in the Valiant Dawn's core. But before it could fire, a sudden electronic pulse scrambled the ship's systems. "Enemy hackers," Marcus Lee growled. "They're inside our network." Jane's mind raced. They were under attack on every front, physical, electronic, and political. The alien flagship closed in, its weapons locked on the council's reactor. At that moment, a strange transmission interrupted the chaos. A voice, distorted but unmistakably human. "This is Dr. Alara Voss, exobiologist and former council advisor. The Shadow Fleet is worse than pirates. They're mercenaries funded by a rogue faction within the council itself." Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. Jane's eyes narrowed. Internal betrayal? Before more could be said, the alien flagship fired. A massive beam tore through the station's core, sending shockwaves through the entire structure. The council chamber plunged into darkness. In the ensuing silence, one thought became clear. Humanity's arrival had not only shaken the council, it had exposed cracks long hidden in the galaxy's fragile peace. Darkness enveloped the council chamber, punctuated only by the flickering emergency lights casting long shadows across the fractured faces of delegates and soldiers alike. The impact of the alien beam had crippled the station's core systems, leaving critical life support and defense mechanisms offline. Ambassador Jane Halvorson steadied herself against a broken console. Around her, the murmur of panic and confusion grew louder, but she forced calm. There was no time for fear, only action. "Get a status report on the reactor," Jane ordered, voice sharp. "Core is stabilizing, but barely," a technician replied. "If the emergency power fails, this station will implode." In the dim light, Elder Oren approached, his ancient eyes heavy with worry. "This attack, it could only have come from one who knows us well. The Council's enemies are no longer external alone." Jane nodded grimly. Dr. Voss's message was clear. Someone inside is pulling strings, arming this shadow fleet against us. Suddenly, a group of armored figures burst into the chamber. The head of security, a Vornax named Krelthak, barked orders. "We must secure the council chambers and protect the delegates. There may be more saboteurs." Jane scanned the room. "And what about Alara Voss? Can we reach her?" Her last known location was the research lab on the lower decks, Krelfax said. But the lab's communication arrays are down. Jane's jaw tightened. Then we're going in. With a small team, Jane descended into the station's underbelly, navigating through smoke-filled corridors and shattered bulkheads. The echoes of distant explosions and the hum of failing systems set a grim backdrop. Reaching the lab, they found the door sealed. Jane's tech specialist hacked the panel, and they slipped inside. The lab was in chaos, equipment destroyed, data cores ripped from their mounts. And no sign of Dr. Voss. "Someone's been here," Jane muttered. "But why leave her alive if she knows too much?" Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a hologram flickered to life, a pre-recorded message from Dr. Voss. "Jane," the scientist's voice was strained but urgent. "If you're seeing this, I'm in grave danger. The faction within the council I warned you about is known as the Echelon. They believe the galaxy must be ruled by the strongest, and they see humanity as a threat to their dominance. They orchestrated the Shadow Fleet attack to force chaos and seize power." Jane clenched her fists. "Where are you, Alara?" The message ended abruptly. Back in the council chamber, the remaining delegates struggled to maintain order. The council leader, a stoic figure named Var from the Selnari, addressed the assembly. "This crisis reveals the rot within our ranks. We must root out the Echelon before they tear the galaxy apart." But many delegates were hesitant. Some suspected their neighbors, others feared open conflict. Jane returned to the chamber, face grim. "The Echelon's reach is wide. If we don't act fast, the entire council will crumble." She turned to Elder Orin. "We need allies, inside and outside the council. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity truly means." Orin nodded slowly. "Very well. But be warned, once you begin this hunt, there will be no turning back." Outside the station, the Shadow Fleet regrouped, their black ships lurking like vultures, waiting for the final blow. Inside, humanity and the fractured council prepared for a war that would determine not just control of the galaxy, but the future of every species within it. The Azure Prime Station remained a fractured shell of its former glory, flickering with emergency lights and sirens that echoed through its halls. Outside, the Shadow Fleet held position like predators waiting for their prey's final gasp. Inside, Ambassador Jane Halvorsen moved swiftly, coordinating with the remaining council loyalists and her own security team. The hunt for the Echelon faction had begun, and trust was in dangerously short supply. Her first stop was the chamber of Councillor Velenar, a quiet but influential figure from the Avrit species, known for their telepathic abilities and political neutrality. Velenar welcomed her with a measured nod. "Jane, I sensed the turmoil before your message arrived. The Echelon's tendrils reach far, but not all of us are blind to their threat." Jane leaned forward. "We need your help. Your telepots could root out hidden conspirators." Velenar's eyes gleamed with cautious hope. "Agreed. But be warned, many are afraid of what we might find. Loyalty is a fragile thing these days." Meanwhile, back on the station's perimeter, Captain Marcus Lee oversaw the repairs to the Valiant Dawn. The ship's systems were still fragile after the hacker assault, but the crew's resolve was unshaken. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we've intercepted a coded transmission. It appears to be from Dr. Ilara Voss." Jane's heart quickened. "Patch it through." A static-filled message crackled to life. Dr. Voss's voice was urgent. "Jane, if you hear this, I'm alive, but trapped on the rogue Moon Viridian. The Echelon use it as a secret base. They're planning a decisive strike against the Council and humanity. You must stop them." Jane clenched her fists. "We're coming for you, Ilara." As preparations for the mission began, the Council itself descended into political chaos. Some factions called for immediate retaliation against humanity, accusing them of provoking the Shadow Fleet. Others argued for unity against the real enemy, the Echelon. Jane's voice echoed through the council chambers. "We didn't ask for this war. But now that it's here, we will face it together or fall divided." Suddenly, the station's communications cut out. a chilling silence spread. A new hologram appeared, this time, a masked figure addressing the entire council. "We are the Echelon," the figure declared. "For too long, the council has weakened the galaxy with false peace and stagnation. We will burn the old order away. Humanity will be our first casualty." The transmission ended with a blast that crippled the station's central comms array. Chaos erupted. Jane looked around at the frightened, angry faces of alien delegates and her own team. "This war has only just begun," she said. "But we will fight, and we will win." Outside, the Shadow Fleet advanced, their black ships gleaming like death incarnate. Inside, alliances would be forged, betrayals revealed, and humanity's place in the galaxy forever tested. The rogue moon Viridian hung cold and silent against the void, its jagged surface scarred by centuries of hidden conflict. Within its cavernous tunnels, the Echelon's command center pulsed with dark energy, a heart of corruption beating beneath the galaxy's fragile peace. Ambassador Jane Halvorson stood at the forefront of a small but fierce strike team, their weapons humming with power as they prepared to breach the base. The Council's surviving loyalists, human soldiers, and telepathic Avrith allies moved in tight formation, eyes sharp, nerves taut. "We don't just fight for survival," Jane whispered. "We fight for the future." The corridors erupted in sudden fire. The Echelon's forces, fanatical and ruthless, threw themselves at the invaders with desperate fury. Blaster bolts ricocheted, energy shields flared, and the air filled with the screams of battle. Amid the chaos, Jane led the charge deeper into the heart of the base, determined to rescue Dr. Alara Voss and shut down the Echelon's plans. Suddenly, a figure blocked the path, a counselor, cloaked in the insignia of the Echelon. "Jane Halvorson," he sneered, "you don't understand. Humanity's rise will bring ruin. We protect the galaxy from your reckless ambition." Jane's gaze hardened. "Your so-called protection has brought only death and fear. The galaxy deserves better." The two clashed in a fierce duel of both technology and will, blades flashing, minds locked in telepathic combat. Finally, Jane's strength and resolve overcame him, and the traitorous counselor fell. Reaching the central chamber, Jane found Dr. Voss restrained but alive. With a quick sweep of her team, the scientists were freed. "Ilara," Jane breathed. "What now?" Voss smiled weakly. "Their weapons, the Shadow Fleet's power source, is tied to this moon. Destroy the reactor and their entire operation collapses." Jane nodded. "Then let's finish this." As the team set explosives and hacked the base's systems, the Echelon's reinforcements closed in. The fight became a desperate race against time. Outside, the Valiant Dawn and Council ships engaged the Shadow Fleet in a titanic space battle. Explosions lit the darkness as humanity and their allies fought with grim determination. Back on Viridian, the explosives detonated, triggering a chain reaction. The moon trembled, cracks spider webbing across its surface. Jane's team fought their way to the extraction point just as the base began to collapse. With moments to spare, they boarded their shuttle and rocketed away as Viridian exploded behind them in a blinding storm of fire and debris. The space battle ended with the Shadow Fleet retreating, shattered and broken. Back at Azura Prime, the Council gathered once more, weary but hopeful. Jane stood before them, voice steady. "We've faced betrayal, war, and fear. But we endured. Humanity didn't come to break the galaxy. We came to save it. The Council's future depends on unity, strength, and the courage to change." Elder Aura nodded. Perhaps the galaxy needed this reckoning. The Council will consider humanity not as a threat, but as a vital force. The chamber echoed with tentative applause. As Jane gazed out at the stars, she knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.